briefly we'll touch on robotics and telehealth. Back to Dr. Sagano at Waseda University. This was a very new idea, a clever idea, an important idea, where they are able to remotely operate a sonogram system. The physician or sonogram technician can, from a hospital, operate a sonogram device in an emergency ambulance so that they can more readily identify how severe the injury is and prepare more quickly. Next slide, please. Here's an example of that telehealth approach using the sonogram robot in a distant facility. Okay, I'm going to close with a couple of remarks about brain-computer interface. This was absolutely fascinating to me. The group at Toyohashi University of Technology, Dr. Ishida, they are looking at, their goal is using new materials and structures for integrated circuits. And their ultimate goal is to realize high-performance integrated circuits and intelligent sensors, with a focus on designing and manufacturing a layout chip which locates seizure focus and injects anti-epileptics locally. They've tested this in monkeys and rats and not yet in humans, but the potential of something like this is just, to me, extraordinarily exciting. We do intracranial monitoring for epilepsy and localization of epilepsy, and then we resect areas of the brain that we can't control with systemic anti-epileptics. The idea that we could place a chip like this would be a great boon to so many people who suffer from intractable epilepsy. I mean, we are cutting out half the brain in some people. The other thing is that there is a great interest in human-robotic interface, brain-computer interface, for controlling the environment, for interacting with computers, allowing people who are locked in from strokes in the brainstem or from very high spinal injuries to communicate through the internet and to control a robot and control their environment. Next slide, please. So I just want to recapitulate. We covered the topics of robots, assistive devices, in neurorehabilitation, exploring the uncanny valley and what will make a socially assistive robot most effective. Next slide. Just again, I want to emphasize that I think there are other applications for some of the things that we saw. The brain-computer interface work for treating epilepsy could really be expanded to allowing us to harness the person's actual intentions and thoughts and allow them and liberate them from a body that won't move, and the ability to use the human controller's actions and collect them and analyze them off-site may be a way of extending the clinician into the community and providing preventive telehealth. So I thank you for your patience. I think I've run over a bit, but I very much enjoyed the experience, and I hope you've got something out of what I had to say today.
Does anybody have any questions for her?
I have a question in terms of the clinical work with the exoskeletons. Could you tell us a little bit about, what is the size of the population, a little bit more detail about what the approach they're taking?
I couldn't quite hear the question. It's about exoskeletons.
Yeah, so if you could provide more detail on the clinical work towards the testing of safety and efficacy for the exoskeletons.
That we're doing now?
You and the universities in Asia are doing.
Well, my hospital is one of the spinal cord injury model systems. There are 14 of us in the country, and we follow approximately 2,000 spinal cord patients in the community. So we're what's called a medical home. We get people at a very acute stage, subacute, rehab, and then into the community. And these exoskeleton devices have only just become available. They were in our country, I know they were supported by DARPA for use by soldiers to make them able to walk further and faster, and now they've been adapted to help the paralyzed. And a lot of questions remain. As I mentioned, how much energy do they conserve? What group of people can use these? Initially one would say, just put it on everybody with spinal injury, but there are issues. There are issues about bone integrity, about skin integrity, about spasticity, about actually their heart and lung capacity after a number of years of being less than fully active. So some very fundamental medical kinds of questions have to be answered about people's ability to, how much do we need to build them up physiologically before we can allow them to use a robot like this safely. The question will be, is this really going to be only useful for people with fairly low paraplegia who have very good trunk control and great balance, or is this going to be useful for people who are, high paras or even tetraplegics? And a lot of this will depend on their vascular stability, how much blood rushes to their feet when they stand, how we can control for that. Over the years, a number of functional electrical stimulation plus orthotic devices have come and gone because they were useful for a very, very small subset of people when it came to using them clinically. So we're starting out by taking people who we know are able to walk using long leg braces and reciprocating gait orthosis. We know that these are people who can be upright and have the stamina to take at least a few steps, so that we're going to not need to address all of the things I mentioned earlier. And then we're going to look at how far, how fast, do they in the end prefer using this to a wheelchair? Is it fast enough? Does it give them enough access to the community? The stair climbing is a very attractive feature because that's something that's very limiting to people when they go home. So many people have to change homes entirely. The ability to get in and out of a car without having to bring a wheelchair is something that will probably enhance quality of life a great deal. So we're looking at kind of a lot of different things about who can use these and why and what it will do, and we really would like to compare products because the interesting thing is, even though the e-legs is in our neighborhood, they won't lend us the device to test, but the Israelis are happy to loan us device to test. So I don't know if that says something about American generosity or about a worry about comparing things. We can't say. But we're very glad that we at least have the Israeli devices to evaluate objectively. And then in terms of the idea of using these as a therapeutic device beyond health and mobility and psychological therapy to actually see if we can enhance recovery, it's not going to enhance recovery to ride the robot. If someone relaxes and lets the robot do all the work for them, that's not going to really get anywhere beyond the legs. But if they are forced periodically to make a decision and actively try to move in one way or another, that may be some stimulation through the injured cord into brain, and that won't happen in isolation, but maybe with adding a number of different kinds of stimuli, both from the top down and the bottom up, we'll be able to get